What's up, YouTube friends? So today I'm gonna be taking apart this LSD unit, and this is V1. For those of you who want to see the difference between V1 and V2 unit, watch the previous video. So after you remove the gear on this side, there are four 4mm Allen bolts that hold the end cap together, which I'm removing now. After that, I'm going to pop this cover off, and we're going to take a look at some of the internals and hopefully be able to replace them. Okay, then we just tap it open. So this is what the inside looks like. This, what you see here, this is the friction pack. These things are like really stuck together with oil. It's hard to peel them off. So I'm just gonna put them on like this so you can see, just to give you an example. Man, these things are hard to take apart. Alright, so to give you an example of how this works, is you see there's one of the plates that has teeth on the outside, and the next plate has teeth on the inside. Right? So the one that has teeth on the outside is going to grip against the LSD unit and not move. The one that grips on the inside is going to be rotating along with the shafts. And then obviously, as the two are forced to rotate against each other, this is the friction that's created, that basically creates the clutchness of the LSD unit itself. Alright, and they alternate. So there's the outer, the inner, another outer, inner, and there's probably, what, about 10 of them or so? So I'm just going to put them like this. Next there's this piece. Okay, then you see there's this other disc here, which I had to use a pry bar on and then just pry out. That will come. So this is where the spider gears are. Which is pretty neat. This is how the whole thing rotates. So one of the shafts, you can see the splines here, one of the longer shafts that goes through the clutch pack. Right, so when this thing is positioned in, let's say that is the front of the car, that way, it's positioned this way in the car. The short stubby axle shaft is going to be on the right side, because you can see it would hit the cross pins for those spider gears, which is about right around this hole. And then this longer part is where the longer spline will go, and then it'll go through the clutches, and then the actual gear, the ring gear, and then out. So that one is more stable. So remember, on the V1, the right side shaft is the one that has play. Alright, so now we got this stuff out, so I'm taking this out. Doesn't matter the orientation. I mean, the teeth look a little bit worn, probably hard to see for you guys. Okay. And then on the V1 unit, these things are just stacked. So on the V2 unit, which I don't have in front of me, there are actually C-clips for where these cross pins go through the body, and then you have to take out the little C-clip and then pull the pin out sideways. For the V1 unit, it's just stuck on there. You just pull it up just like this, and the whole thing comes out. And it's grooved, so you can see that there's a long groove here and a long groove here, and this thing is kind of notched to where it has a wider side and a thinner side. So it'll go on like that. This guy, and don't lose these end caps. Let's see if I can get one off. There are these other end caps here that hold these on. And then the final one comes out, and there is a small washer here, or shim. Let's see. Hard to peel it off. Come on, there you go. Okay. Alright, and that's literally it. There's nothing else left in this diff. All of these other teeth here are kind of grooves inside and markings and all of that. So a little oily, a little smelly, but that's all it is. And so we're going to be replacing this bottom shim. So this is flat, you can see from Racingdiffs. This is going to be concave like this, so it's going to be putting a little bit of pressure up on it, preloading it. And then the other thing we're going to be replacing are the clutches, the friction discs, and then there's another preload, big preload bevel shim that we put on top of the clutches, and that's it. So very easy. So I'm going to clean this up. It's going to take me some time, and then we'll come back. Alright, so now I'm going to start stacking these, put some oil, just diff fluid on. So this is the beveled, one of the beveled washers that goes on the very bottom. You're going to put it in facing kind of up this way, not that way. Next is the bottom side gear. I also put a bunch of oil, not so much on the spline, but that's okay. On the gears here and all the surfaces they're going to be moving. Okay, that goes in there. Then we have these guys. So everything that's going to be moving around, they put some oil on top of. So that's going to go. It doesn't matter which way you do this as long as you alternate. It's grooved here, so just go in, push it down, and then once you rotate one of them, you should be able to see that the other two are also rotating. Same thing with these guys. There's a notch here that you can see that goes against that notch, so I'm just going to rotate it 90 degrees here. Also put oil on the pin, as well as all the other surfaces that will be moving. Just make sure it's all pushed in, and then again, as I move one, the other four should also spin. Great. Next is the top side gear. Also everything lubricated. It's going to be touching. Okay. And then this guy, I'm not sure what the exact naming for it is, but I'm going to call it kind of the transfer gear, if you will. So you can see the inside of it is splined. This is where the output shaft goes in and basically connects to this, right? That goes to your wheel. This outside here becomes the inside for the clutches. You can see how this would sit. If it fit. So something like this. And then remember I told you that there are discs that have the teeth on the outside. Those teeth are going to be, you can see that there are groove marks all around here. Those would actually sit against this. And so when your wheel is spinning against this friction disc, that's what would create the clutchiness of it locking up. So, alright, so also lubricated a bunch of these surfaces here, inside, outside, and there's a little notch or groove cut out in it, and that's what would go against that side gear. Okay, so transfer gear, and then there's this plate. Not sure what exactly it does. I guess maybe just centers that so it doesn't move sideways. And there's a cutout here that's beveled this way, and that side is going to go down, so you see the flat side facing up when you're putting this together rather than this side. Okay, maybe I'll take this guy out for now. And there's a ridge there to basically how far this guy would go. So I might have to just tap it in. I can push it by hand maybe. All Okay. So now I can put this guy on top. There we go. So this is moving freely now. And if I want to take it off, I can. There we go. Alright, so now I heard from my diff builder. So this is FYI, like my spare diff. So I actually have a diff at a builder currently with a V1 unit who is rebuilding all the bearings and everything else, and he was having trouble actually putting some of these guys on. So he said that there is like a tooth that's cut slightly off that doesn't quite fit, and you can see like that's the trouble I'm also having here. Looks like maybe this tooth. Yeah, so what my diff builder had to do was actually grind down one of the teeth. I really don't want to do that, but I might have to because there's no other way. Alright, I don't know if you'll be able to see this here, but the material has a little bit like of, I don't know, overspray or something there. I mean, the quality is not super good. And then the other thing that I figured out with this guy's not going on is some, also a little bit of overspray. So I just put it down on the floor and I just very lightly tap the end that needs to go on with a hammer, and it goes on, and then it's free to go on. So I'm just testing all of these, just fitting them. Just a little bit of like overspray of the friction material or whatever that was. Is there worry to like crack these discs? Maybe. I mean, worst case, I'll just reuse one of the old ones. There you go. So this one fits now. That should have rubbed off some of that friction material off the teeth. I mean, it's not super easy to move now down that way, but I'm kind of trying to create a little bit of space. Okay, so I'm stacking the discs in alternating fashion. So the first one is with the teeth on the outside. This next one is the teeth on the inside. See how easy this would be. Okay. And remember, guys, each one of the discs is pre-lubricated on both sides. Alright, this is the last one. So that's in. The last thing that goes in is this shim, this large preload shim. So let me hold it this way. It's concave this way, and that's exactly how I'm going to put it on. So this is it. The last part that I am slightly concerned about is now what happens when this is all stacked on, because I test fitted it. Before I do that, there's one more step that's important. If you have a spare half shaft, which hopefully you do because you have to take all of this apart, just go inside and align these. So remember, there was this side gear, and there's what I call this like transfer gear. They are currently slightly misaligned, so it's better to align them before you tighten everything up and preload it. So alright, there we go. This last part. So the only part that I have sort of left over from the entire kit is this guy, and this guy is the very first shim that was at the very bottom over here. Not preloading, but on the side gear. On the very bottom side gear. Remember, we replaced it with a curved one. The spacing of these holes is actually pretty unique. So this only goes on kind of one way. You can see that there are kind of 3 holes close together, and there's one hole way up here. So you would kind of try to do the same thing. So for me, it looks like these 3 holes are together, and then that one is kind of far away. So I'm going to put it on this way. It is not keyed per se, but so now if I tilt this sideways, I hope you can see it. You see this big gap here between the cap and the LSD unit? So I don't think that these little guys, these Allens, can actually bring it in. So I'm not 100% sure of what to do here. If I put my body weight on it, I can feel the preload shim kind of preloading. But I'm not sure if that's too much force for these little bolts. I mean, this head is a 4mm, so and it screws on from that side. So for those of you who don't know how to take this out, which I didn't show, you might see there's a little notch groove right here. I'm not sure if this is focusing, I apologize if it's not. There's a groove right here, and on the inside here there's going to be a C ring. So that's what you're basically trying to break. And then this half shafts pull out. That's what I was basically trying to say, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to flip it over and keep it all together. And now I need to figure out how to take up that gap, which is not quite a 1/4 inch, but it is pretty sizable. I can probably step on it. So I'm going to try to stand on it and balance on it. I'm not sure if 175 pounds is enough. And I'm going to try to see if I can tighten these. I'm not sure what you guys are seeing on the camera right now. Apologize, I'm doing like a little spread eagle thing. I'm not sure if I should have put blue Loctite on them, but they will not back out, and the reason for that is, I'll explain in a second. Let me just take a look at what this looks like. Oh man! Alright, well that closed out. Good. Okay, the reason that I said that these will not actually back out is because you see these grooves here. This is where the bolts go through to hold your ring gear, and the ring gear will sit right here. So even if these back out a little bit, which I don't think they should or will, this is a through hole. The ring gear is going to hold them in. So I still see like a little bit of a gap here, so I need to tighten this guy. And this is a rebuilt V1 LSD unit, guys. Obviously, you know, this bearing needs to go, and a similar one needs to be pressed on here. But that's as easy as that. Again, this is V1 unit. V2 unit would be a little bit more complicated with how the pins come out, and because once you put the first preload shim, that actually shifts all of the side gears and the spider gears downward, so the holes will not actually line up. You need to have a press to press things in, and I don't have that. So anyway, the point of this video was to rebuild this guy, and I think we are in business. So boom. And again, remember, if you didn't watch my first video comparing V1 to V2, the beauty of the V1 unit is because this is a fixed this way. This is now a fixed width, right, from the end of this guy to where the end of this bearing is. And so once you actually shim this thing to get the proper backlash between the ring gear and the pinion gear, you can then just take this guy out, take it apart, rebuild it, or replace the clutches again if they need to be replaced, and then pop it back in, and then you don't need to reset the backlash. This is a win.